The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Hello and welcome to The Best in the World. Yes, I'm back in the wet and windy United Kingdom after a glorious 2-week spell in Cape Town, South Africa, where I was broadcasting for Sportacino. You can see some of those episodes at sportacino.com. Go and check it out. Some amazing views we had there and an incredible time. But despite the weather, it is quite nice to be back in the UK because I'm returning to my daily routine and my goals that I've set. And that can be a good thing because that's what we've learned by speaking to some of the greatest athletes on the planet on this podcast, where I speak to the Olympic champions, the world champions, the former world record holders, the former world number ones, to find out what they do differently from the average Joe, which effectively is me. And this week I spoke to the two-time Olympic champion in show jumping, Beezie Madden. The American won her 2 golds in team jumping at the 2004 and 2008 Olympics. We talk a whole range of things with Beezie, including her bond and her love for her horses, how she copes when they get injured, and also the logistics of transporting the horses around the world to compete. In 2004, Beezie became the first woman to pass the $1 million mark in earnings, and we talk about what motivates her and what her goals are now, and will she compete in the next Olympics. We also learn about her routines, her organisational skills, and also how she likes to chill out and relax. It's a really good chat with Beezie Madden. That's all coming up in just a moment, but I want to say that today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is one of the leading suppliers of audiobooks in the world, and they're offering you a free 30-day trial to check out their product. That includes 1 free download. All you got to do is write this code down and put it in your phone or your tablet or your computer and check it out. The code is audibletrial.com/best. That's Audible, which is AUDIBLE, audibletrial.com/best. Go and check it out and let me know how you get on. Send us a tweet at Richard_Parr. I would love to hear from you. Do you know what else I'd love to hear about? I'd love to hear about how Beezie Madden became the best in the world. That's up next.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Beezie Madden, welcome to The Best in the World with Richard Parr. We're chatting right at the start of 2017. Now, you've had so much success throughout your career, 2 Olympic gold medals, World Cup titles, all different amazing achievements. But do you set goals, and have you set your goals for this year?
For sure we set goals. Already we're thinking towards the next Olympic Games in Tokyo, so we're just still looking for horses that might be an opportunity for that, and trying to gear the horses, the younger horses that we have, to be able to peak 4 years from now. Short-term goals, I'd say, for this year, I'd really like to qualify for the World Cup final in Omaha. I need to do really well in the next 2 qualifiers in order to do that. And then really just to get my younger horses some experience, maybe doing some Nations Cups or some shows in Spruce Meadows in Europe.
And to look forward, we very often have to look back. Did you achieve everything you wanted to in 2016?
I had a funny 2016. I had some horse. One of my best horses, Simon, got hurt early in the year, so that slowed me down a little. And then the making the Olympic team was fantastic, and winning a team silver was awesome. And unfortunately, my horse got injured during the Olympics too, so I'm a little light on horse flesh right now. But I have some other ones up and coming, and hopefully we're going to have another building year.
When you put so much hard work into everything that you do and all the work you do with the horses, and then they get injured, do you get frustrated, or do you just realise that this is just something unlucky and it happens?
For sure, it's frustrating. you feel obviously bad for the horses too, is the worst part. Unfortunately, if you have horses, you're gonna have some problems. So it's how you deal with them and how you can bounce back, and hopefully the horses will recover and on you'll go. The world goes on, right?
I think it's the people who work with horses is that closely that they develop a real bond with their animals. Is there any one particular horse you bonded with the most throughout your life?
We're like you say, we bond with all of them. They're little, kind of like pets. You have to almost be careful not to treat them too much like pets sometimes. But I'd have to say Authentic was one of my most favorites. We got him when he was 6 years old, and kind of developed with him. And he was the first horse to go to the Olympic Games, and he has a fantastic personality and very friendly and alert and intelligent. And he's still in our field up in New York, and we enjoy having him even in the field.
So you're in New York now, but you're actually from Wisconsin, is that right?
Yes, I grew up near Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
So tell us about your upbringing and how you got into horse riding.
My parents had horses since I was born, just a small business of buying young hunters and trying to sell them again. So I grew up kind of going to the stable. And then I really stayed locally around Wisconsin basically until I was 17. And then I got to show on the East Coast for 1 year as a junior, and then went to college in Virginia. And I got a job as a working student with Katie Prudhomme. And I was with her for, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. I did 2 years of school because it was a junior college. And then I went to work for my current husband, John Madden, in, I think, 1987.
How difficult was it to juggle everything when you're trying to train and you're trying to work with the horses, yet you're also trying to study? Are you someone who can organize yourself pretty well?
Yeah, I'm an organized person, I'd say, but I didn't try to take on a whole lot. When I was in school, I didn't do a lot of traveling to horse shows. I mostly did summer type things, summer shows, and then concentrated on school when I was at school. But I had horses at school as well, so I was able to ride. And I did the intercollegiate.
When did you realize that you were going to take this as like a serious career, a serious profession? Obviously, you went to college as well, but when did you start targeting things like, I want to go to the Olympics, I want to be the best in the world?
I think I was dreaming about going to the Olympics. I don't think I've ever been that self-confident at saying I was going to go to the Olympic Games, but when I was, after 2 years in a junior college, I was accepted to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, which is where I really wanted to go. And at the same time, I was offered a job with Katie Prudhomme, a full-time job. So, well, as a working student. So instead of going to school, I decided to do that. So I think that was kind of a point in my career where I decided it was going to be my career.
So tell us about your first experience at the Olympics. Was it everything you kind of expected, hoped for, dreamed of?
Yeah. I mean, we had a fantastic result. I think the whole team we had there, it was a little unusual because it was everybody's first Olympic Games. I don't think that's happened so often before. And so we were all maybe a little naive and a little starstruck, but I think the biggest thing you realize once you're there is that it is the Olympic Games, and it is very exciting, and it's more pressure, but it's also the same thing we do day in and day out in Nations Cup events. So it was while we had success, it was also a great learning experience in that way.
So a lot of the Olympic champions I've spoken to, they all talk about not changing what they do on the day of a competition to anything else like they do in training or any other competitions. So what would be your typical pre-competition routine?
Mostly that would be tailored towards the horse I have. Mostly, though, it would just be get up. I actually do some stretching myself in the morning, and then the horse would get exercise either, probably ideally for a few hours before the competition. Try to sharpen up his listening skills, make sure he's loosened up. Obviously, check the soundness every day. And then we'd be able to walk the course and go. So it's, like the only thing different at the Olympic Games is you only have one horse there to worry about. So sometimes you have to find ways to occupy your time, but we tend to be able to handle that.
How do you occupy your time? How do you relax when you don't have to think about horse riding and competitions and everything like that?
Oh, I don't know. I like to watch a movie or read a book or, I don't. Honestly, most of the time we are quite busy with the horses, so
I can imagine.
We don't spend a lot of time.
Any favorite book?
Not really. I like reading stuff about history or the World War II. Anything kind of based on a true story is my preference.
And of course, your story is amazing, and people are going to be learning from that as well.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
More from Beezie in just a moment, but I want to tell you that today's show, as well as Audible, is brought to you by Sportacino.com. You may have heard me mention it at the beginning of the show. It is, of course, my video cast, my daily sports breakfast show on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, and on Periscope. We discuss all things related to sport, fitness, nutrition, travel, and everything else related to it. It's a really good show, on for 30 minutes. If you get a moment, I'd love it if you could like the Facebook page, facebook.com, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be wonderful. All right, let's return to our chat with Beezie Madden. She is the best in the world.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Now, among your many achievements, 2 gold medals I mentioned, you were the first woman to pass $1 million in earnings in 1 year. Has money been a motivation for you, or has it been more the success and the titles, or has it just been about the enjoyment of the sport?
Yeah, first the enjoyment in the sport is, that's how I've stuck with it for so long. And then I'd have to say, obviously money is important, but really the representing your country has been my main goal, and I'm really lucky with the owners that I've had, and particularly now with Mrs. Wexner. That's her main objective too, is to represent the country well and to try to go to the championships for the country and do well. And then, obviously everybody likes to win, and so winning money is part of that. Helps keep you motivated in between the championship years.
Everyone does like to win, and as part of your job, as part of your life and career, you completely travel the world. Do you enjoy the traveling aspect?
Yes, I have to say I probably don't take full advantage of that. I could do probably some more sightseeing and stuff like that, but I really like to concentrate on what we're doing. But it's for sure, it's fun to be at different venues and different places. Otherwise, it would probably get a little stagnant.
Yeah, I've had friends who've worked in the MotoGP circuit before, and it always sounds glamorous to be doing all these things, but very often you go from airport to hotel to venue, and then back to the hotel and then home.
Sometimes changing clothes in the car on the way to the airport, missing the plane.
Now, you mentioned about how your routine obviously depends on your horse, and when we talk about travel to our other stars, again, we're mainly thinking about them and maybe parts of their team. How difficult is it logistically when it comes to the travel for the horses?
I'd say, it's in these days and times, there's easy ways to organize it. There's shippers that specialize in that. But that is probably the biggest health risk for the horses is their travel. So you try to keep it as limited as possible and as short as possible. But and at the same time, sometimes you're on airplanes. The most difficult part is probably for the grooms, because you're limited on equipment a lot of times. Sometimes we're even limited with the number of grooms that can go on a plane. So it's for sure the thing we worry about most with the horses. And but at the same time, it's so much more sophisticated than it used to be. You can fly nearly everywhere, and you have certain countries that have health restrictions that are also make it difficult, but even that is getting addressed and hopefully getting easier to go from country to country.
When you arrive in one of these countries, let's say it is a long distance, let's say you've had to go on a far journey, do you have to leave early and make sure there is that adjustment times for the horse? Like, we're very lucky these days as humans that with like business class and reclining seats and stuff, you can pretty much get a pretty good sleep and land in another country and go straight to work again. I'm guessing you can't do that with a horse. How much time do they kind of need to adjust?
Well, we do try to let them go business class, basically try to give them a double stall. And then, but yeah, like you said, there's only so much you can do for them. Their systems, though, are different than ours. They sleep much shorter periods of time, a half hour at a time here and there. So I don't think the time change affects them a whole lot. But yes, we do go, when we have a long trip, we like to give them 2 or 3 days before they have to really gear up for the competition. And also the biggest thing, some places you can bring your own feed, some places you can't, some places you can get the same feed, but that's the biggest thing for them is the environment changes, the feed changes, the water changes, all of that is what's hard on them.
Now, you mentioned that your first Olympics, you were quite naive as a group, and then you went to Beijing as a reigning champion, as a defending champion. Was there any added pressure on you at all?
Oh, for sure. We had actually 2 of the same horse rider combinations with McLean and Sapphire and myself and Authentic, and excuse me, 2 other very good ones. So for sure we were hungry to defend our title, and we were all more experienced. I think Will, it was his first Olympic Games, but he's an experienced rider and nothing ever bothers him, and Laura has been on Olympic teams before. So yeah, we were pretty hyped to defend, and it was a great week we had there.
Absolutely amazing in Beijing there. And then you also won the World Cup in 2013. What was that like?
That was awesome. That was my first real individual championship, and with a horse, Simon, that I really believed in. And I kind of surprised myself that week by winning the first day. I was hoping just to stay within striking distance, because I'm not always the fastest with Simon, but the course and everything just seemed to suit him, and I think that set the tone for the week. Things kept falling into place. I really needed to jump a clear round the last round of the World Cup, and I didn't, but I was still tied, and then Steve had to go first in the jump off, and he went really fast and had 2 down and made it kind of easy for me. So it was like it was meant to be, but it was an amazing feeling.
And all that hard work rewarded right there. When you were growing up and getting ready and trying to, become a professional and an Olympic competitor, who were some of the people you'd look up to as role models in the sport?
Well, I was a student of Katie Prudhomme, so for sure she was one person. She is an amazing teacher and was always an amazing rider. And that's who I kind of knew right around me. And then, there's so many that I looked up to. I didn't really have one particular person, but, you look around, the top riders are so good.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they all each have a different thing that you particularly think they're great at. And so I just try to take different things from different people. I'm lucky to have my husband, John, who helps with everything, and right down to picking horses, having owners. And then George Morris was always a good sounding block for me, as he and Frank Chapeau were chef de keeps earlier in my career, and each one of them has been influential as well.
And I'm sure together you're all working together to find the right horses for you. I know you mentioned you're looking for the right horses this year to work with. What exactly is the right horse? What characteristics do they have?
Obviously jumping ability, but that's really only a part of it. They have to have the temperament that you can work with them. They have to be very careful and not want to hit the jumps. And these days and ages, the courses are so technical that you need a horse that is very rateable. That you can adjust his stride. You can go in small rings. They can go in big rings. They can go in front of crowds. They can go on airplanes. There's so many qualities that they need to be able to accept things and stride. And then they also have to be physically strong enough to hold up to, it takes us till they're 9 years old before you can even start to count on them for big competitions, and you hope they last till they're into their late teens if you're really lucky. So they need some longevity in them.
You mentioned being physically strong there for a horse. What about for yourself? You mentioned earlier that you do stretches in the morning. Do you do any other kind of exercise or anything like that other than just riding the horses to help you improve? Do you do any gym work? Do you do any running? Do you do anything at all? Is that something you need to think about?
Yeah, definitely. I especially here we're in Wellington right now, and we spend a little over 3 months here. And I go to the gym 3 days a week with a trainer, and then during the summer try to keep up with it. If I'm in a place with no gym or something, I'll try to run or walk or something to get some exercise. But there's always something you can do even without a gym.
What type of exercises are you doing?
Just full body exercises to strength and core exercises. Anything to build the whole body up.
And what about your diet? What does that involve?
Well, with the traveling, that's difficult, but I try to eat some, for sure, protein and a little bit of carb, and try to cut out the fat and sugar. I do the best I can when I'm traveling. When I'm at home, it's easy, but
yeah, we had the former world 10,000 meters world champion Liz McColgan on the show before, and she said that was a similar problem for her, and she'd always take some porridge with her wherever she went, so she would know that she could always eat something. Is there any food you take just to make sure that you get something in you?
Sometimes I'll take some oatmeal with me too as well. Yeah, you can put it. Yeah, but mostly you can try to figure out how to get something that's in your diet.
Well, Beezie, it's been so great to talk to you today on The Best in the World. Just before you go, maybe tell us a little bit more about the stables you're working at and anything else you'd like to promote on the show, and perhaps your social media handles or any information like that, please.
Well, we have our stables in Cazenovia, New York, and then we're very lucky our sponsor, Mrs. Wexner, has a stable here in Wellington. Florida that we work out of. I'm very lucky to have some great corporate sponsors as well. I have Voltaire for saddles. We have Cavalier Feed that helps us get feed all over the world. I have Dion for the bridles. Ariat for clothing. We have clothing for the horses, and Charles Owens for the helmet, which safety is a big thing with them. And we have our Facebook page on Job Madden Sales, and I think we have a Twitter account too. I'm not so good at all that stuff, but
well, I'm sure I can find it.
You can come visit us on that.
Well, I can find it and add it to our description page as well, Beezie. No problems there. Just before we go, you mentioned about safety there. Have you had any scary crashes throughout your career?
Everybody has falls. I'd say the worst one was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. It was 3 years ago, the year before the spring of the World Championships. I had a fall and broke my collarbone. Had to have a plate and screws put in it, but honestly, it was pretty quick heal. So I've been lucky.
Yeah, very lucky. Well, it's been an absolutely amazing career that you've had, and I wish you all the best on your next rotation heading towards those Olympic Games in 2020. Thank you so much for being on the show, and Beezie Madden, thank you for being the best in the world.
Thank you very much.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
An ace chat there with Beezie, but Beezie isn't the first person we've had from the world of equestrianism. Only 2 episodes ago, we spoke to Lucinda Fredericks from the world of eventing. You can go back and listen to that on iTunes and on Stitcher and at richardparr.net. Go back, let me know what you think of it, and maybe there's some more stars from the world of equestrianism, eventing, team jumping, show jumping, anything to do with that. If there is someone you'd like me to interview, please send me a message on the Twitter at Richard_Parr, or even on our Facebook page, Best in the World with Richard Parr. I'd really like to know who you would like to hear from on our show. We've also had some other great guests on the program before. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Darren Campbell, former sprinting gold medalist. I'm thinking Bodo Illgner, the Real Madrid goalkeeper. I'm thinking the sailing Olympic champion turned CrossFit competitor Anna Tunnicliffe. We've also had water polo stars such as KK Clark. All excellent interviews that you can learn from and improve your everyday life from. So go back and listen to them. And if you get a moment on the iTunes page, I would love it if you would give us a rating and review. And you know what? Click that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Because our episodes are out every single Wednesday. You know, it's free knowledge straight into your brain, straight into your heart, so you become an even better person. So subscribe to the page. We're out every single Wednesday, and I've got another great guest for you coming up next week. Stay tuned. More great knowledge on the best in the world with Richard Parr. Until then, have a great week, and I'll speak to you then. Take care. Goodbye.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.